Thanks, Katie. Okay, so let's get started with the afternoon. I'm gonna actually start things out with the gift that we were supposed to give Liz Samuels at the end of our talk, and then we forgot, and we don't want you to leave without the gift. All right, so here it is. Yeah, just some nice swag. So I'm going to have to go to Ellie. Yep.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ellie English. I'm a clinical implementation specialist with Open, and I manage our Open Medic naloxone distribution program in INC. Okay, so I wanted to start with a brief overview of Open, because I know most of you are familiar with Medic, but Open is a little different. We are focused on opioid harm reduction and initiatives helping clinicians with opioids. So our goals are reducing, eliminating unnecessary opioid exposures through reduced prescribing, improving prescribing and substance use knowledge amongst clinicians, and increasing awareness, best practices, and access to resources amongst the community. So together, Open and Medic came together to implement this statewide emergency department naloxone distribution program, which provides naloxone to emergency departments across the state to distribute to patients who are at high risk for future overdose. So just an overview of the program thus far. We have 38 participating emergency departments. Many of your hospitals are probably already participating in this program. We are in 22 counties across Michigan, and our sites have distributed over 5,500 naloxone kits to patients in ED that are at high risk for future overdose. So this could be patients who were treated for opioid overdose in the emergency department, people with history of substance use disorder, things like that. So this is a map of all of the current participating hospitals. Like I said, there are 38 of them now. Some of these might look familiar to you. I see a lot of familiar faces in the crowd here. And this is what we provide to each of the sites who participate in this program. We give you a fully assembled naloxone rescue kit that includes 2 doses of intranasal naloxone or Narcan, a naloxone information brochure that we've created as a collaboration of this program. We also include a brochure that's specific to the county of your hospital, which tells people where they can find naloxone after they use the provided doses and other harm reduction agencies in their area. We also include some PPE, so some gloves and a CPR face shield for rescue breathing in the kit as well. And this is what is on the outside of those kits. So the front of the kit has this blue label that you see here. And that includes instructions on how to use the Narcan. So this is helpful for patients who are taking this kit home. They can know what to do in the event of someone having an overdose. So all those instructions are labeled there. And we have this QR code that links to our website with videos and other instructions. We also have this orange label, which is on the back of the kit. And that is a survey for people to use once they have used that naloxone kit to give us some feedback. And though we don't have a ton of responses for that, we do have a couple that we like to share that are really great testimonials for why this work matters, showing that people are actually using these kits to save lives of themselves or their friends or family. So talking a little bit about the nuts and bolts of implementing this at your hospital, we ask that each site identifies champions for this work. It's really important that we take a multidisciplinary approach to this work because there's lots of people that go into this project. So all the champions will work together to coordinate this program at their site and work with our project team just to make sure everyone's on the same page with things. We typically ask that you identify at least 3 champions. So that would be a physician, a nurse, and a pharmacist champion. Beyond that, you are welcome to do whatever works best for your site. There are other places who have done like a social work champion or a peer recovery coach champion if you're lucky enough to have them in your ED. Those can be really helpful with implementing this program. So as far as the roles go, these are how they typically lay out, but we do like to say that they can be distributed however works best for your ED processes. So typically the physician champion does a lot of the coordination with the IT department to set up your kit ordering processes and your EHR. And they often are the ones who report back to us on the number of kits that are distributed each month. The nurse champion is typically involved in a lot of the education piece. So they will work with Dr. Gina Dahlem, who will be up here after me, and organize education for all of the staff so that everyone is aware of how to identify these patients and how to engage with patients who may benefit from a Narcan kit. For the pharmacist champion, obviously naloxone is a medication, and so it's important to have a pharmacist that's on board to help with the appropriate labeling of the kits as they're distributed, as well as monitoring the kit stock in the pharmacy and ordering more kits from our team as necessary. So just talking a little bit about kit management, the naloxone kits, like I said, are assembled by our team and are shipped to your ED upon request. So to request more kits, all you have to do is reach out to me and we will get those packed up and sent to you. Processing time is usually about 7 to 14 days. We try to be as quick as possible, but that's usually a safe bet. And then your site will be asked to let us know the total number of kits that you dispense to patients each month. And that, again, is just a quick email to me letting us know where you're at so we can do our reporting for our grants. All other data collection will be completed by medic data abstractors, so you don't have to worry about doing any chart review or anything like that. We also ask that as champions, you would attend our quarterly site champion calls. And these are really a work group with other champions at different hospitals across the state to discuss barriers and facilitators about the program at your site and connect and learn from each other about ways to overcome barriers. We are going to be reevaluating this structure a little bit at our next call, but we would love if you all would be able to join us. Our goal for any new sites that are not currently participating in this naloxone work is that you would have champions identified by the next call, which would be in September. So you'd have a couple months to kind of figure that out. So next steps for implementation for new sites that are not currently participating in the program. The biggest step is identifying champions for your site. We need people to help drive this work forward, make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row to get this implemented. So I know that there are clinical champions identified for each of your hospitals for the medic work. You're welcome to have that person also be the champion for this work, or if you think someone else would be better suited to that, they could do that as well. Like we say, whatever works best for your processes works for us. We just want to make things easy on you. After your champions are identified, we usually set up a call with those champions and myself, and sometimes Erin Dorlaski, who's over here, one of the physicians on our team, to talk about some of these steps for implementing at your particular hospital, because that can look a little different depending on where you're at. So we like to set up just a quick 30-minute call, talk through some strategies for implementation and some next steps. We will also have you schedule a naloxone train the trainer session with Dr. Gina Dahlem, that will be with your nurse champion typically. So they will talk through how to go about that nurse education. You will need to work with your IT department to set up some EHR ordering processes. So I took a quick peek at all of the sites who would have to implement this program who don't already do it. And it looks like most of you are within a system where someone else within your system is already participating in this project. And so when that is the case, you can often borrow a little bit of their processes, which is nice. So hopefully you'll have a little leg up with that. We'll also need to establish some pharmacy labeling and dispensing processes. Those kits do need to be labeled as they exit the pharmacy, go into the hands of the patient. So just determining how best to do that, depending on your pharmacy that you have in your ED, whether you have a 24-hour pharmacy or more limited hours. And then you also will work with us to determine the right number of kits for your site. We did a bit of an analysis of our pilot sites. We have a paper that's published on that. And it's about 1 to 2 kits per 1,000 monthly ED visits is a good estimate of the number of kits that you might need per month. And then for sites who are currently participating in the naloxone work, good news, not much will change. You're pretty much going to be moving on as per usual. And then just a little more about those initiation calls I mentioned. You'll meet with Erin and myself. You can connect with me to schedule that. It'll just be a quick 30-minute Zoom, like I said, to talk through some of those strategies. And now I will pass it off to Dr. Gina Dahlem to talk about our education and resources.
Thanks, Ellie. All right. So how do I fit into this program with Medic and Open? I am a family nurse practitioner in which I currently still practice at our local homeless shelter in Ann Arbor. And back in 2013, our case managers were sharing with me about increasing number of overdoses that were occurring in our shelter bathrooms. As a former ED nurse, I knew what drug to give, but we didn't have it at the clinical setting. And so we looked into the literature. Well, what are other people doing in this space? And how can we bring naloxone into the community? And so another chief medical resident and I looked into Chicago Recovery Alliance, as well as Grand Rapids Red Project, to discuss with them about having naloxone and how to educate our community lay people and using naloxone to reverse overdoses. And so it has literally been our shelter staff reversing overdoses since our program began in 2013. And of course, with the worsening epidemic and passing of legislation requiring first responders to be equipped with naloxone, that's when I started to train the first responders in our community and around our region. And so that's how I got started in this space with community naloxone distribution and education. And because we were having so many number of people wanting to get trained, well, we developed a train the trainer naloxone model. And we realized it's very easy to do it and it works. And for this project specifically, nurses are great educators. And then so we developed a nurse train the trainer education as well. And during our first year of our pilot site with Medic and Open, prior to training, we also conducted a pre-implementation study about and talking with the nurses about what would help for them to implement this program and what would be some of the barriers. And what they shared with us was that some of the barriers that they may experience in the local hospitals were stigma from the staff and how to reduce that, and the education and the time that it would take to train their nursing staff and others. However, this process would be aided if there were other resources for them to educate easily and quickly, and as well as if we provided them naloxone kits, and if it was integrated into the PICSIS and of course the EHR alert system. And for the hospitals that were fortunate to have a 24-hour pharmacy to work with their pharmacists. And so when we started on this, our pilot phase in year one, people were generally receptive. And what other feedback they provided for us was that they were going to plan to educate in different huddles during in service, use the train the trainer model, and email shared during department meetings, and they were also offered a web-based online training option as well. And so what do we do? And I'm going to just showcase and highlight some of the material that we do have for you. We have the Train the Trainer education PowerPoint that's tailored for each of the hospitals and with your local county statistics, the patient education brochure cards, and the naloxone access cards. These are cards for where else in the community are patients and family and friends able to access naloxone in the community. And then we also created a education web-based in which nurses can also receive a CEU for taking the training online. We also received permission from Dr. Tracy Green and her team in which they were able to, they had many different wonderful posters regarding naloxone, and they gave us permission to use them for this project. And then we also created an implementation guide. And as Ellie pointed out, all of these resources are available online and hopefully easy to access for a QR code. And that's all there for you. So that is it.